Legend of Reggae Jimmy Cliff passes away at 81. His cause of death is mysterious while fans seek solace. Jimmy Cliff, a legendary figure in world music history and one of Jamaica's most important cultural ambassadors, passed away at the age of 81. The globe was immediately rocked by shock, grief, and astonishment at the announcement, which was confirmed by BBC News. However, the fact that his cause of death was not revealed was just as shocking to fans as the fact that he had passed away. The quiet surrounding his last moments felt especially poignant for an artist who spent 6 decades infusing his songs with candor, vulnerability, and life experience. Fans, reporters, and other musicians were left with a mix of sadness and unsolved questions. However, perhaps appropriately, the mystery reflects Jimmy Cliff's deeper character as a guy who shared his voice, his emotions, and his message with the world while keeping his private life private, holy, and out of the public eye. A new chapter in comprehending his life, his humanity, and the remarkable cultural legacy he leaves behind has been opened by his passing and the silence around it. An international outpouring of feelings and one missing piece tributes flooded news sources and social media in the hours after the announcement. Millions of ordinary fans, as well as presidents, prime ministers, artists, actresses, activists, and others, showed their appreciation for the man whose music got them through heartache, oppression, joy, celebration, protests, and the darkest emotional depths of life. However, almost all of the tributes ended with the same question: how did he die? We understand why the family may choose privacy, is said in the same sentence. Jimmy Cliff was strongly ingrained in the lives of those who never met him, as seen by this duality, yearning for closure while appreciating the stillness. He was more than just a famous reggae musician. Through generations of hardship and optimism, he was a buddy. Instead of conjecture, contemplation has been made possible by the lack of a publicly disclosed cause of death. Fans are opting to concentrate on the spiritual significance of his legacy rather than the physiological aspects of his death. Devia purpose, rich, privacy-guarded life. Jimmy Cliff's intimate life never gained international recognition, but his music did. In contrast to many of his peers, Cliff hardly talked about the specifics of his personal troubles, family issues, or health. Almost all of the topics covered in his interviews were music culture, spirituality, international politics, Jamaican nationality, human empowerment. He had no desire to live a life of celebrity, meaning piqued his curiosity. He upheld these boundaries even as he grew older and became a respected reggae elder. Therefore, the family's choice to conceal his cause of death is compatible with his way of life and is not incongruous. Jimmy Cliff kept his private life hidden for over 60 years while letting his art speak loudly. The last silence, the emotional impact of unreported death causes. Fans frequently experience a complex emotional reaction when a popular figure passes away and the cause is kept a secret. Jimmy Cliff's silence has elicited a number of emotions. 1. Honor, a final manifestation of Cliff's long-standing determination to keep some things holy. Many admirers interpret the lack of detail as an act of dignity. 2. Interest and sadness. When someone who influenced your life dies, it's normal to crave closure. A gentle aching is caused by the uncertainty, not by rumors but by sadness. 3. Introspection. Space is created by silence. Fans are re-evaluating Cliff's songs, activism, spirituality, and long-held worldview within that context. 4. Acceptance. More people are realizing that the cause does not alter the loss once the shock wears off. Regardless of the specifics, the world has lost a cultural titan. This emotional environment is a part of the narrative and serves as a reminder that artists can become family in ways that go beyond blood or location. Jimmy Cliff's music was always confronted with harsh realities, even if he didn't express them explicitly. Cliff sung audaciously about injustice, emancipation, heartbreak, and tenacity throughout his career. However, he seldom disclosed the precise suffering that influenced his viewpoint. His blend of solitude in life and openness in art was what made him so captivating. Songs such as Many Rivers to Cross, Living in Limbo, the more difficult they are, if you truly want it, you can get it. Feel even more moved now. Every phrase bore the burden of personal experience. His unnamed fights were alluded at in every song. This may be the reason why the cause of death, which has not been revealed, is causing such a strong emotional reaction. As he passes away, Cliff's quiet creates the same space that he always provided for listeners to fill in the meaning. The last chapter, a life that told more than any medical report could. Jimmy Cliff's influence was always evident without a headline. He had already attained immortality long before he died. In the movie The Harder They Come, through cross-border anthems, through captivating performances, through community uplifting activism, through a message of tenacity that became ingrained in Jamaican culture. Illness or deterioration did not characterize his tale. Resilience was its defining characteristic, defined by intent, characterized by a steadfast commitment to empowering others. His life, rather than the medical specifics of his last days, is highlighted by the family's decision to conceal his cause of death, and that feels right for a lot of people. Fans from all around the world struggle with the mystery and decide to concentrate on the music. Speakers blasted his songs through open windows in Kingston. Fans placed candles outside record stores in New York. Cliff's CDs were frequently played on local radio stations in London. Young artists from all around Africa honored him and acknowledged his influence on the continent's sound. People listened to their childhood soundtracks again, even in isolated villages and tiny towns. Nearly all of his admirers concurred that the certainty of his influence is not overshadowed by the ambiguity surrounding his passing. Jimmy Cliff left behind a legacy that defies description. The world can learn everything there is to know about him from his music. Why the loss affects everyone so strongly. Jimmy Cliff was more than just a performer. Through melody, he served as a spiritual mentor, a poet of hardship, a supporter of optimism in the face of insurmountable obstacles. His death weighs heavily because, in difficult times, he was a voice of bravery. He stood for the strength and dignity of Jamaica. He was the face of the worldwide reggae movement. He had no trouble bridging cultures. He sung for the downtrodden, the idealists, and the nomads. It might not be known how he passed away. However, his lifestyle will always be etched in music history. A heritage that exists outside of silence. Jimmy Cliff's radiance is not diminished by his demise. It enlarges it. His music will go on to inspire future generations, motivate political movements, soothe the bereaved, bolster the tired, empower those who are marginalized. Remind the audience that persistence is always achievable. His legacy is strengthened rather than weakened by the mystery surrounding his cause of death. It puts the emphasis on the message, the music, and the mission where Cliff always intended. The conclusion: legends rise again. The harder they come, the harder they fall. Jimmy Cliff once sung on the challenge of overcoming hardship. The world now rises to pay tribute to him in his demise. Gratitude, not answers. With recollection, not with medical specifics. Not just with sadness, but also with joy. His life spoke louder than any announcement could, even though the cause of his death is still unknown. Jimmy Cliff has traversed his last river. But now, tomorrow, and for centuries to come, his voice will guide the rest of us through ours. A peculiar and delicate silence that feels almost ceremonial descends upon the globe's music scene as the world continues to process the news of Jimmy Cliff's passing. A sense of mystery has been produced by the lack of a publicly disclosed cause of death, although it is not based on rumors or conjecture. Rather, it serves as a gentle reminder that even the most powerful people, those who spoke for entire nations, have the right to go from this world with certain deeply held beliefs. For many, the unsolved mystery of Jimmy Cliff's death only serves to heighten the emotional impact of his passing. It makes us face the frailty of life, especially one as strong, imaginative, and profoundly important as his. Cliff was a man whose music gave voice to marginalized people, whose words wrapped themselves around humanity's wounded portions, and whose spirit uplifted those who felt invisible. In the end, the world might have to acknowledge that he earned the opportunity to keep anything for himself after giving all to the world. Losing an artist whose work feels like a friend is a special type of pain. Jimmy Cliff was more than simply a musician. He was a mentor in some of the most difficult situations in life. His music spoke freedom to many who felt imprisoned. His words provided solace when things became too difficult. His voice roared back the dignity that had been hushed by injustice. Now that his death has been veiled in calm seclusion, listeners everywhere are simultaneously grieving the loss of a giant and acknowledging that certain chapters must end without a complete explanation. Nevertheless, this unknown is included into the narrative. It illustrates a reality that Jimmy Cliff kept with him throughout his life. The most intense struggles, the most intense pains, and the most sacred aspects of the human experience frequently take place behind closed doors. Cliff shared his art, wisdom, fortitude, and action with the world, but he kept his soul to himself. The reason of death that was not stated is not null and void, it's a line. For a man who spent decades assisting others in overcoming their own challenges, it is a last effort of self-preservation. Something remarkable starts to occur as fans listen to his songs again. The quiet created by the withheld information gradually fills with meaning, emotional rather than medical solutions. Many Rivers to Cross is revisited with a renewed feeling of devotion. They sense a more profound level of sensitivity when they listen to Sitting in Limbo. As they play The Harder They Come, they see their own struggle as well as his mirrored back at them. A renewed connection to the eternal truths he conveyed via music emerges from the unresolved question of his death. The fact that the last note of his life does not eclipse the many he gave us may be the greatest homage of all, that listeners are inspired to go even deeper into the artwork he left behind by the mystery surrounding his death. That sadness leads us to appreciation rather than curiosity. Jimmy Cliff's songs are able to speak louder than ever because of his quiet and unspoken departure. Legends are ultimately defined by the lives they leave behind, not by how they pass away. Jimmy Cliff's life was a constellation of bravery, soul, and rhythm. His body of work will continue to inspire, guide, and uplift long after the unanswered mysteries surrounding his last moments have subsided. The significance of his legacy is evident, even though the cause of his death is still unknown. Jimmy Cliff is no longer with us, but his light steady, everlasting, and soulful remains.